Have you ever walked through a parking lot and noticed that one vehicle? The massive truck. The one that's spotless. Chrome shining in the sunlight. Lift kit. Oversized tires. Every upgrade imaginable. It looks expensive because it is expensive, and most people assume the person driving it must be doing pretty well financially. After all, who spends that kind of money on a vehicle if they can't afford it? But here's something I've noticed over the years. The person driving the most expensive vehicle is often not the wealthiest person in the parking lot. In fact, sometimes they're one of the least wealthy. And once you understand why that happens, you start seeing it everywhere. At the grocery store, at your workplace, in your neighborhood. You begin to realize that many of the things we associate with financial success aren't signs of wealth at all. They're signs of something else entirely. And that's what we're talking about today. Because this isn't really a story about trucks. It's a story about identity, status, psychology, and the hidden cost of trying to look successful before actually becoming successful. Let's start with something uncomfortable. Most people don't buy things because they need them. We buy things because of what they make us feel. Think about it. A person doesn't spend thousands of dollars on designer clothing because the fabric keeps them warmer. Someone doesn't buy a luxury watch because it tells time more accurately. And many people don't buy expensive vehicles because they need the extra capability. They buy them because of what those purchases communicate to others. But even more importantly, to themselves. The vehicle becomes part of their identity. A statement, a symbol, a story. And stories are powerful. Because once we attach a story to something, logic starts taking a back seat. You stop asking, can I comfortably afford this? And start asking, what does this say about me? That's where things get dangerous. Not because people are foolish, but because they're human. And humans are emotional decision makers who later search for logical explanations. We tell ourselves we need something. Then we spend months creating reasons to justify why we bought it. The decision feels rational, but the motivation was emotional from the beginning. Now here's the problem. The financial system understands this better than most consumers do. Car dealerships understand it. Advertisers understand it. Manufacturers understand it. They know that if they sell transportation, they'll have to compete on practicality and price. But if they sell identity, price becomes secondary. Watch almost any truck commercial. You'll notice something interesting. The focus isn't on commuting. It's not about sitting in traffic. It's not about running errands. Instead, you see mountain roads, construction sites, wide open landscapes, adventure, freedom, strength, independence. The truck becomes a character in the story. And by extension, so do you. The message isn't subtle. Buy this truck and become this person. That's an incredibly powerful emotional proposition, especially for people who feel like they're missing something. Recognition, confidence, status, control, a sense of achievement. And that's where psychology quietly enters the conversation. Because sometimes people aren't buying a vehicle. They're buying relief. Relief from insecurity. Relief from comparison. Relief from feeling behind. The truck becomes proof. Proof that they're doing okay. Proof that they've made it. Proof that all their hard work has amounted to something visible. The irony is that the people who are actually building wealth often stop caring about those signals. And that's one of the strangest shifts that happens as people become financially secure. They become less interested in looking wealthy because they no longer need the reassurance. Think about someone who has spent 20 years consistently investing, avoiding unnecessary debt, living below their means, building assets quietly. They don't wake up every morning wondering whether strangers think they're successful. Their confidence comes from what they own, not what they display. And those are very different things. One creates attention. The other creates freedom. The difference sounds small, but over time, it changes everything. Let's imagine two people. Both earn roughly the same income. Both work hard. Both live in the same city. Both have similar opportunities. The first person buys the expensive truck. The second person chooses something reliable, practical, and significantly cheaper. At first, the truck owner appears to be winning. Their vehicle gets compliments. People notice it. Friends admire it. there's an immediate reward. The practical car owner receives none of that. No compliments, no attention, nothing exciting. But something interesting happens over the next decade. The truck owner continues making payments, paying higher insurance, paying more for fuel, paying more for maintenance. Meanwhile, the practical car owner has something else. Margin. Extra money left over every month. Not because they're smarter, not because they earn more, but because their lifestyle costs less. And margin is where wealth begins. Not income, not intelligence. Margin. The gap between what comes in and what goes out. That's the space where investments grow. Emergency funds form. Stress decreases. Options appear. Without margin, even a high income can feel suffocating. With margin, even an average income can become surprisingly powerful. This is where many people misunderstand wealth. They assume wealth comes from earning huge amounts of money. But often it's more about what happens after the paycheck arrives. Two people can earn exactly the same salary and end up in completely different financial realities. One constantly feels trapped. The other gradually feels free. Not because of luck, because of decisions repeated over and over again. And those decisions often look boring in the moment. Driving the older vehicle, skipping the upgrade, keeping the phone another year, living in a house that's comfortable rather than impressive. These aren't exciting decisions. Nobody applauds them. Nobody posts them on social media. But they create something incredibly valuable. Future freedom. The challenge is that humans are wired to prioritize immediate rewards over distant rewards. Psychologists call this present bias. The emotional benefit of getting something today feels stronger than the logical benefit of having more money 10 years from now. That's not a character flaw. It's simply how our brains evolved. Our ancestors weren't worried about retirement accounts. They were focused on immediate survival. The future was uncertain. The present was urgent. And even though the world has changed dramatically, our brains still operate using many of those ancient instincts. Which means every financial decision becomes a battle between present comfort and future freedom. The expensive vehicle feels real. The future investment account feels abstract. One can be touched. The other exists as numbers on a screen. And humans naturally gravitate toward what feels tangible. But here's the turning point. The moment many financially successful people experience. Eventually, they stop asking one question. Can I afford this? And start asking another. What is this costing me beyond the price tag? That's a completely different conversation. Because every dollar spent is also a dollar that can't do something else. It can't be invested. It can't reduce stress. It can't buy flexibility. It can't create options. Every purchase has a visible cost, but it also has an invisible cost. And the invisible cost is often much larger. Once you start thinking this way, financial decisions become surprisingly clear. Not necessarily easier, but clearer. You stop viewing money as a tool for impressing people and start viewing it as a tool for creating choices. Because real wealth isn't about owning the most expensive things. It's about having the ability to make decisions without fear. Being able to handle emergencies. Being able to leave a toxic job. Being able to take time off when life demands it. Being able to help people you care about. Being able to sleep at night. That's what money is really buying. Not status. Peace. And peace is one of the most undervalued assets in modern life. We live in a world where people are constantly encouraged to upgrade. Upgrade the house. Upgrade the car. Upgrade the lifestyle. Upgrade everything. But very few people talk about the emotional burden that comes with maintaining those upgrades. The bigger payment. The higher expectations. The pressure to sustain it all. Sometimes what looks like success from the outside feels like anxiety from the inside. And that's why appearances can be misleading. The nicest vehicle in the parking lot doesn't necessarily belong to the wealthiest person. Sometimes it belongs to the person carrying the heaviest financial burden. While the older, quieter vehicle parked 3 rows away belongs to someone steadily building financial independence. One is performing wealth. The other is creating it. And from a distance, they can look almost identical. That's why comparisons are so dangerous. Because you rarely know the full story behind what you're seeing. You see the truck. You don't see the payment. You see the house. You don't see the debt. You see the vacation photos. You don't see the stress. The visible part is only a fraction of reality. And once you understand that, something incredibly freeing happens. You stop trying to keep up. You stop measuring your progress against someone else's appearance. You stop confusing consumption with success. And you start focusing on what actually matters. Building stability. Building options. Building freedom. Slowly. Quietly. Consistently. No dramatic shortcuts. No overnight transformations. Just small decisions repeated over time. Because that's how most wealth is built. Not through one giant breakthrough, but through years of choosing long-term peace over short-term validation. And maybe that's the biggest lesson here. The goal isn't to look rich. The goal is to become financially secure enough that you no longer care whether anyone thinks you're rich. That's a completely different destination. And ironically, it's often the people who reach that destination who attract the least attention. Their lives don't look flashy. They look calm. Their success doesn't scream. It whispers. And in a world obsessed with appearances, that quiet confidence is becoming increasingly rare. So the next time you're walking through a parking lot and you see the biggest, most expensive vehicle sitting there, remember this. You aren't looking at wealth. You're looking at a choice. A choice someone made with their money. And maybe the more interesting question isn't what that vehicle cost. It's what that vehicle prevented. Because every dollar has a job. Every financial decision shapes a future. And sometimes the most powerful financial move you'll ever make is the one nobody notices. The older car, the smaller payment, the delayed upgrade, the quiet decision to prioritize freedom over appearances. It won't impress strangers. But years from now, it might be the reason you sleep better, worry less, and have more control over your life. And when that day comes, you'll realize something important. The people who seem wealthy aren't always wealthy. But the people who quietly build freedom, eventually, they don't need to seem like anything at all. And do not forget to subscribe to Weston Wealth so you don't miss any of our videos. I will see you in the next one.